the 70-year legacy. You guys been growing. Talk about that expansion and what's going on there. And, we'll dive a little deeper. I'll kind of let you give the overview and then we'll dig into it a little bit.
So yeah, 70 years. So 1952 is when Dad started the business, and he was simply a TV repairman, working out of a van. With Roddey and Kate coming to the business, it's a chance for us as a group to take a look at expanding outside the market a little bit. Both of the kids and myself, we're a Wake Forest family, and Winston-Salem, we've got tremendous connections up there with the university, with the buying group based up in Winston-Salem. We think it'll be a natural fit for us to come in there and serve the market.
Welcome into the Independent Thinking Podcast. This is your host, Rob Stott. We never need a real reason to talk to members on this podcast. I mean, it's the heart of what we do is, talk to them and share their stories, put a spotlight on them, and, share the best practices and things that they're doing, successes and wins they're having. But it is fun, too, when we have a reason to, and that's exactly the case today with the Queen City Audio, Video, and Appliances down there in the Charlotte area in North Carolina. Not to stone's throw from our headquarters in Winston-Salem. And Queen City, the owner, Roddey Player, and joined today by his son and daughter, Roddey Jr. and Kate Player, and getting the chance to dive into their 70-year history as a company. They're celebrating 70 years in business in 2022. And Roddey's been around, in the business for about half that time, third generation, with his son and daughter involved. So they're third generation family, involved with Queen City, and, a lot of great things going on for them as a member of Nationwide Marketing Group and just a retailer in general in this space, in the independent channel. And, excited to get to dive into that history with them, but also, talk about the things that they're doing to share the knowledge across generational talents there at Queen City and what they're doing to prep for the future. And it's a business that's experienced a lot of growth in really a short period of time recently. And, the ways they're looking to capitalize that and expand into new markets and things like that. So just a real fascinating business, one that we always love to talk to. And, the people involved are certainly, make it a lot of fun to interact and engage with them. So smart and brilliant in what they do. But to have them on the podcast and talk about their 70th anniversary and just some of the things that they've got going on is something I've been looking forward to for a long time. So happy to be able to do that today and excited to share it with you. So let's dive into it. This is Roddey, and Kate Player here on the Independent Thinking Podcast from Queen City. All right, we're back on the Independent Thinking Podcast, and this might be the most attended or, most participants in a single podcast here for Nationwide Marketing Group, but it's a family affair and I love it. I love to see it. So Roddey Player, of the Queen City team here today with Roddey Player Jr. and Kate Player, the kids of Roddey. So appreciate all you guys jumping on and, doing a podcast here with us today.
Oh, absolutely, Ron. We're looking forward to it. We always like to share with our dealer friends and with Nationwide too. So appreciate you inviting us onto the podcast, really.
Yeah, excited to have you. We talked about it ahead of time, but not our first podcast together, but the first time for Nationwide Marketing Group. So appreciate, being able to reconnect and chat about a really cool thing that's happening this year for Queen City. And that's, a 70th anniversary. So, before we dive into that though, Roddey, tell us a little bit about your backstory. But I know you're second generation. We got three generations here today. The third generation, I should say, about, your background in the business and, your path to Queen City.
Yeah. And so Rob, while we're on that subject, my mother still works with us. She'll be 93 years old in July and still works. She's
incredible.
We're actually trying to get to the Guinness people and see if she's the oldest remote worker in the country. But she works out of the house and does a lot of great work for us on accounts receivable and vendor side of things too. So we've got three generations that are working in the business today. So I was, I was raised in the business like a lot of us that you talked to were. As a young child, 8, 9, 10 years old, my dad would drag me into the office, and I want to go out and play golf on Saturday mornings, but he'd yank me out of bed and take me to the office so I could clean it for him, wipe down the displays and sweep the warehouse and all those kind of things, and really started doing that at a very young age. And really just, it was, graduated high school. I worked in the delivery trucks before I graduated high school. And then once you graduated high school, went on the sales floor a little bit, went to college and started to advance through the organization at that point in time into some different roles. Had a finance background in college, and always enjoyed operations too, which is always what's driven our business and our industry. And so, just kind of was off to the races. It was pretty well decided before I got out of high school that was what I was going to do. Typically you hear a lot of discussions about family business to send the kids to go do something else for a while, but my mom and dad needed help right away out of school. So there wasn't much discussion about going and cutting my teeth anywhere else. They were determined to get me in the business and just beat me to death when I got in instead of letting me go somewhere else and learn. They just beat it into me as a young college graduate. So, but it's been a great experience for me. But I guess I've been doing this now for 38 years since I graduated school, and so it's all we've ever done.
No, that's awesome. And now, I mean, you got third generation involved. Did you allow them to have that same path? You don't have to, I don't know, like see child protective services here, but you didn't beat it into your kids, did you?
Yeah, well, it's different if it's your own kids. You don't have to worry about child protective services. You can do whatever you want to them. It's somebody else's kids you got to worry about. But no, I'll kind of let them give you the background. Roddey was the oldest. So why don't you, maybe Roddey, you talk about what your experiences were coming up.
Yeah, certainly. So I still had some of the same experiences that Senior did. Honestly, coming in during summers, sweeping floors, working on trucks, working in the warehouse, just kind of being whatever they needed me to be. But as I got a little bit older, we kind of had conversations, and there was no real pressure to come into the business. I kind of felt the pressure to go out and do my own thing for a little bit, and as I think Kate did as well. So really wanted to make sure that once I got back over here, it was a case of making sure that nepotism is not how I got anything. It's really just coming in to seeing and bringing value. So I've actually only been in the business for, I guess, almost 2 years again, full time. Again, not counting the 8-year-old to, I guess, 18. Every time we had a holiday, every time we had anything, every summer break, I was back in the warehouse, helping out with stores, building displays, selling. I mean, just kind of doing a little bit of everything. But most recently, I was a digital sales manager for a local broadcasting company here in Charlotte. So I had about 10 or 15 sales reps under me, basically operating as a full service digital ad agency. So again, lovely transition back into the business, being that once I kind of hit a plateau, kind of where I was as far as a learning curve, kind of was able to get a little bit more flexibility than Senior had. Was able to go out and continue to learn new things from new people, and kind of bring some of that outside knowledge into things. Now, flip that on its head a little bit. Coming from sales and marketing, now I'm in ops, logistics, and purchasing. So really trying to balance my way out here. So again, still got some of the same beating up that I'm sure came to him back in the 80s, starting a new role. But again, just kind of bring in a new, fresh set of eyes on things coming from outside world. I guess, yeah, I had about almost a decade worth of a sales and marketing career before coming back in. And really, this is kind of the area that we needed some help. And so just kind of being able to put some more sweat equity in and really help us keep rolling. But that's about it for me.
How about you, Kate?
All right. So yeah, I did a little bit of the same. I was more in the administrative offices, helping keep them straight and keep paperwork going every now and then in the office, but I wasn't super involved growing up. I went to college and I went into a financial analyst role up in Winston-Salem at a technology company, where I stayed for about 4 years. And one time when I was traveling, I came through Charlotte and met with my parents and got an offer. The accounting manager at Queen City was looking to retire. And since that was my background and based on my training and conversations that we'd had about what I was doing at my old company. He wanted me to have a conversation with her and just see if that might be a role that I'd be interested in. And so I came and worked with her for about 6 months before she retired. And that was about 3 years ago. So I've been here ever since, running anything from accounts payable and receivable to the accounting role here, plus customer service and pretty much anything else that falls into my lap.
No, that's awesome. Hey, chance for you guys to air grievances, if you will, on a public forum. What's it like working under two generations of family? What's the experience been like?
We do a pretty good job, honestly, working together. We're pretty good at communicating with everyone.
Sometimes to a fault. It's got its good sides, it's got its bad sides, but we make it through. And even if we have a rough day at work, typically we'll be over at the parents' house, or they'll come over for dinner, lunch, whatever, to kind of make sure we're still on level pegging.
That's right. And we got a new grandbaby there too. Roddey Jr.'s got a new grandbaby. So we're working on 4th generation. It's in training right now. So
congratulations.
As soon as we can't hire them fast enough, so we got to grow them.
Yeah, as soon as they can grab a broom, right?
Yeah, you got to grow your own these days. It's so hard to find people. We got to grow our own.
Pretty much. Yeah. Well, she's 8 months old tomorrow. And she'll be, let's see, probably give her about 16, 18 months, and she'll be in here with us.
No,
Yeah.
that's awesome. Exciting.
Hey, Rob, one thing, they talked about the kids and going out and doing some things on their own a little bit. The difficulties that in a family business like ours is, when you have the kids coming into the business, what are their roles? And so really, I've been thinking about this, since I was first married, about what does it look like, the transition in the family business, because the way it's transitioned to me, and trying to do it the right way. And so typically you don't always have a role for them to come into the business and fill a role. So they kind of come in and they're, in other people's ways and things like that frequently. And but we did have opportunities for both of them, so it's real lucky. So Kate mentioned the accounting manager was retiring, and so Kate was able to spend 4 or 5 months, I think, with Melanie before she left, and Roddey came in as we opened up our new warehouse that we opened up Memorial Day of 2021, and so that was the crux of the invitation and bring him on in. He was having a lot of success, as Kate was, in his other role. So we had an opportunity and a great need to bring somebody in. And so, and once to learn another part of the business too, at the end of the day, we're marketers, we're administrators, we're salespeople, we're, operations. And so we have to learn all parts of the business if we're going to lead the business. It's hard to make decisions that affect people in the business if you haven't been somewhere around their role and understand what their challenges are, what they do. So both of them have done a great job for us and allowed us to continue to just a super, super rapid expansion in the marketplace and outside of Charlotte too.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, absolutely. And kind of a unique way to transition too, because we could talk about, you mentioned the expansion, and I know you guys, that's a big part of, it's the 70-year legacy. You guys been growing. So talk about, that expansion and what's going on there. And, we'll dive a little deeper. I'll kind of let you give the overview, and then we'll dig into it a little bit.
So yeah, 70 years. So 1952 is when Dad started the business, and he was simply a TV repairman, working out of a van, and finished at World War II, and got a call from a friend about a trade school in Louisville, Kentucky, about to learn how to repair television sets, and they really were hardly in the marketplace yet. So it was brand new technology, and his friend saw it as an upcoming, blooming kind of industry, and convinced them to come to Louisville and go to trade school for a couple of years. And then they came back to Charlotte, and they had manufacturers that sold to retail themselves, but no service. And so they were servicing TVs, and so it started simply as a TV repair shop, and got in the retail business with a little bit of help from the banks who had repossessed a bunch of TVs and didn't know what to do with them. So he would, go fix them up, sell them, and then go back and pay for them after he'd sold the TVs with one of his banking friends, and got in the retail business there, and just kind of took off from there. Added appliances in the 60s, and that became a real stable business back in those days too. If you go back those days, not all houses had dishwashers and things like that back in those days. So it was a fresh industry, but it's grown so dramatically, and it's always been a stable business for us too. 1952, 70 years, a long time. And so I guess I've been there for about half of it, which is kind of cool, I guess. It's Charlotte's been our home base, and we feel like we've got a really strong market share in Charlotte, and with Roddey and Kate coming in the business, it's a chance for us as a group to take a look at expanding outside the market a little bit. Both of the kids and myself, we're a Wake Forest family, and Winston-Salem, we've got tremendous connections up there with the university, with the buying group based up in Winston-Salem. We run trucks up there frequently for referral business and things like that for friends in Nationwide, and we've been doing that for a while. And so we think it'll be a natural fit for us to come in there and serve the market. There's not any sort of an independent retail in Winston-Salem like us since Robert Wiesner and Ed Kelly had that business back in a few decades ago, I guess, is when they were at their peak of the Kelly's business back in those days. So it'll be fun to go back and fill in those shoes in the marketplace as a strong independent with a great brand assortment, great service levels and things like that. But we just signed the lease yesterday, 1st of June, and hope to have it operate sometime in the third quarter of 2022, this year, 2022. And we really, have been having a lot of discussions with Nationwide about what are the plans. Are there some things that we should try and do together? And so I think we're going to try and work on this as somewhat of a prototype, so that we can take a look at everything that Nationwide offers and kind of hone the skill set and hone the offering so that, the Nationwide will be involved with what we're doing and hopefully be able to bring personnel in there, bringing interns to see how the business works. I think it'll be a good learning process for them. It'll be a good challenge for us to take on some of this technology that's offered. But it's going to be a lot of fun to work together with Nationwide on a lot of the things that we're trying to do to really treat this as somewhat of an experimental retail store and test all kinds of shopper marketing kind of techniques and display techniques and digital price tag techniques and kiosk techniques and whatever things we can do to try and push the technology side of things and how we display the product, how we sell the product, all that type of thing.
That obviously presents a really unique opportunity, and it'll be exciting to kind of follow that as the store, you guys implement all those things into the store. Also brings up an interesting point about, the difference between locations for Queen City. How different, first of all, give us an overview, how many locations are there currently? And then, how different are they from store to store, and kind of how do you decide, what one store features as opposed to another and things like that?
Yeah, we talk about that a good bit. So, and the business is 70 years old, you didn't launch a format that you duplicate and time again. So I've got, 6 stores, 7 counting our online presence. This will be the eighth location, the way we look at it. In Winston, it'll be one of our larger locations. Actually, the facility's 30,000 square feet, less some warehousing in there too. But, each store is different, to be honest with you. And so there are challenges. Some of them are, down as small as 11,000 square feet. And then this will be the Pineville store that you and I talked about in that earlier podcast is about 20,000 square feet. And this 30,000 foot building will have approximately 20,000 square feet of display also. So there are challenges in today's world. We probably aren't displaying quite as much product as we used to. Because availability and things like that, and trying to buy deeper with fewer models so that we have availability. So it's a challenge, in markets, demographics could differ by marketplace, so right. we have to do those analytics, and we've seen retailers fail by not realizing that each market is different. And so I remember years ago, there's a Northeastern retailer that came down in the South and went to Atlanta and shipped in a bunch of snow blowers and snowmobiles and things like that into the Atlanta marketplace, because that's what they always did. And so, you have to analyze the market that you're going into, and we have the luxury of all the different offerings that Nationwide has and the group programs, and so we can pick the vendors that'll best suit that marketplace. But it's just little tweaks here and there. But overall, the scheme is fairly similar throughout the stores.
It'll be interesting to, like you said, you can't carbon copy and pick up and drop a new store into a place and expect it to do well. So neat to see you guys. Even within just the state of North Carolina, be able to do that from store to store and maximize kind of what you're doing there. So, that evolution, you talk a lot about it, how the business has evolved. 70 years is a long time. So what's it been like for you going from when you started in the business? And then for Kate and Roddey Jr., I want to hear your guys' take from when you guys stepped into kind of what you're seeing today, how the business has evolved over the years.
Yeah, Roddey, you got some comments there? Or?
Yeah, a little bit. One of the things too that we've been kind of working on with the new generation coming in is focusing on the strategic planning and how we're going to get from where we are to where we need to be. And that's something that, again, coming from the 31-year-old maybe falls on deaf ears sometimes with some of the people we've got. We've been very, very blessed to have a pretty high retention rate as far as who we've got working for us. So as we see an older sales force and older ops, logistics, everything that we kind of see across the company, that's where you're going to be seeing a little bit lacking as far as new technological advances, as far as how can we work on efficiencies, how can we continue to grow this business and not just keep doing what we've always been doing. So that's something that we've always kind of seen as not necessarily as a inhibitor to our growth, but it's something that we know has worked for a while. We know we're in business because of what we're doing and what we've done for the last 70 years. But we've got some lofty expectations. We've got some pretty high goals for the next few years to continue this growth trajectory that we're on. We want to make sure that we can do things more efficiently. And really just kind of work smarter. That's been kind of a drum that we've been beating for the last year, is to make sure that everything is kind of in motion, everything is kind of rolling the same way, continue to grow that momentum as we go. So again, falling back on practices that even just thinking about going through the routing tabs of how we routed our trucks 10 years ago, everything is, again, just completely different. We print out the tickets and, well, this one's in Charlotte and this one's not. So make sure we put this one with that one and just literally just batch all the tickets together. Now relying on technology to make sure those are efficient, make sure the guys are staying as busy as possible, make sure they're as efficient as possible, trying to get as many stops on each truck as we can, because obviously we want to make sure that we're minimizing that cost as much as possible. So again, as we kind of move forward, it's interesting to see some reluctance to some of the technology that we bring in. But again, as they see the benefits to it, as they see, oh, my workload just got a whole heck of a lot easier. It's a whole lot easier to go out and sell more and make more money. Everybody tends to warm up to that a little bit. So that's been an interesting thing to see. Again, kind of a balance between, okay, what did we do back in 1952 and what do we do in 2002? And what do we do in 2022? I mean, that's just kind of the thing that we want to make sure that we're really focusing on, to, again, not just kind of jump at every new bell and whistle, because again, that's kind of scary and it's kind of expensive. And again, we know what we've been doing, so we want to make sure that we kind of find that line between what's brand spanking new and what can we do to help supplement what we've already been doing. So that's something that's certainly interesting.
No, it's certainly, for sure. And, Roddey, hearing Roddey Jr. talk about those kinds of things and the way he's approaching them, thinking back to your kind of early days in the business, does it sound, is it sounding familiar? Is it like, kind of thinking back into the past?
Yeah. So when I got out of school, we weren't running automated POS systems back in those days. So that was one thing that I was determined to do when I finished school, was to, install our first computer systems back in the mid 80s. And when I started doing the analysis around how do we operate today, or how did we operate then, and to automate our systems would have been impossible to do. So we really had to start to think about how do we, because we had back in those days 4, 5, 6 stores, and everybody operated super independently. And you can't operate that way if you're going to have a computerized POS and a system that that automates everything. So we had to rethink how we were doing things back then, and really worked for the next couple of years on trying to think about how we would centralize things, centralize our buying, centralize our warehousing before we could automate. And then realized it was 5 or 6 years later before we pulled the trigger in the early 90s, did install a POS system. But it was difficult to do business back in there. The volume we were doing it at, it was all done manually. so that was a lot of work that's being put in then. But to install something like that in the early 90s was an incredibly difficult task. And, some of the things that Roddey's talking about and, and Kate, and so we're looking at, is our POS systems the right systems to have in place, and always trying to analyze our systems and our processes to make sure that they're operating and what's an efficient and effective and a profitable way for the business. So, and at this point in time, significant changes, should be analyzed and vetted by Roddey and Kate to determine if it's right for them as they advance the business, because those are the discussions now. As I hadn't head off into the sunset yet, but there's a horizon on my career in the business, obviously, and so we want to have a smooth transition, and as they take more and more control of things like that, then surely their input and their research and their ideas are being considered as we move forward.
You mentioned that, you each of you bring a unique kind of perspective to what you're doing for the business and kind of where you are. So I want to throw the next question to all three of you. And maybe we'll get a different answer. Maybe we won't. We'll see. But, what from your seat, physically where you're sitting right now, what is the biggest challenge that each of you face in sort of what you're doing for the business? And, what are the ways you're kind of working to address it?
Go ahead, Kate.
I think the biggest challenge right now is people. We need some more salespeople. We need some customer service reps. Everyone is working so crazy hard, and I continue to be impressed with how much effort people will put in just to their day to day. But for me, that's kind of what the next holdup is we need to bring in a good number of people to be able to staff up our stores and staff up the admins so that we can get up to where we need to be.
Roddey Jr.
Yeah, she says a good number of people. I'll just settle for a number of good people. That's kind of the challenge that we always work through, ops, logistics, and purchasing. So kind of sitting between sales and all of our delivery teams and making sure that can be a contentious relationship between those every once in a while. It's really hot on the sales floor, and it's really hot in Charlotte in the middle of summer too. So every once in a while we'll get some tempers flaring. So really we want to make sure that we just have buy-in across the whole system, because again, we communicate this. We just got off a company-wide call. We do it every Friday. We've done it since the pandemic started. To really kind of debrief what everybody else is going through, make sure that you understand, okay, well, you know what, sales may not have done this, they may not have been communicated correctly to with the builder, or they may not have given the proper information with the specs, or delivery may have not known or may have not done something correctly as far as what the salesperson was informed of, but the contractor on the site told them something different. So again, those are the things that we want to make sure that we're all kind of going in the same direction. This is to make sure that we're really kind of buying into to making sure that they see the bigger picture, to make sure that it's really kind of to make sure that honestly, it's just to keep this thing rolling.
And Roddey?
Rob, so our business has doubled in the last 2 years during the pandemic, and so it has been, Roddey mentioned the call that this Friday, those first calls, and I wish I had them recorded. It was really about, you guys hang in there. We're going to be okay. We've got a plan. We know what we're going to be working on to try and get through this. And we're blessed to make some really, really good decisions about our business and what we wanted to accomplish over the next, what we thought would have been a 3 to 6 month kind of window. And it was about, getting inventory and getting orders and into our barn. And so barn wasn't big enough. And so when I got extra warehousing and wound up with a, 104,000 foot warehouse, central warehouse to serve the metro out of. But really it has been, just been incredibly difficult on our people. I remember this is probably 6 months into it, and one of my really super successful salespeople, super efficient, really clean, does a great job, always has a good attitude. I walked by him in the break room one day, had his head in his hand, and man, he was about to collapse. I'm thinking, holy cow, what are we doing to everybody? And everybody's feeling it. Now everybody that listens to your podcast, pandemic beat us to death, and so it's, our salespeople are selling twice as much as they did before. And so this is what the process is again. What are we asking them to do to get through the day and push to sell more? We always want to sell more, right? We never sold enough. So, but yeah, no, those have been big challenges. And so, hopefully I can, try not to get too down in the weeds too much and try and stay at a higher level, look for those opportunities to try and improve the quality of life for our people. And that means bringing in more people. And so, we've worked over the last couple of months on a strategic plan for the next 3 years to double the business again. And so we can't just do that like we did the last 2 years by just, letting the market beat us to death and just buy. And so we've got to be real intentional about hiring people that really, align with our culture and align with what our ideals are about how we want to serve customers and that type of thing. So we've brought in resources to recruit and train and develop people to help us do these things. And we are in a much better position personnel-wise overall than we were, especially in sales. We've done a nice job getting some salespeople in there. Kate's talking about some of the support people, and we've added some people there, but we continue to grow. And so we need to add more people to support that too. And so we're making progress on it, but it's not like waving a magic wand and all of a sudden you got 38 people that show up to work the next day. You got to make sure they're the right ones so that you can keep them and make them, and they'll be good contributors, be good citizens. We want to hire people that are good citizens within the company and work well with others and have all the same ideals about what we try to lay out in our strategic plan.
Certainly. And I'm sure, any retailers listening to this are probably relating, shaking their hands like, yep, that sounds like maybe nodding their heads right along with similar problems and challenges and also opportunities though too, that certainly exist for them. And, just more reason to continue to, want to follow your story and support you guys and what you're doing. Cause hearing that kind of growth has happened in such a short time is obviously very exciting, but just shows that more's possible, and we'll be here to support. But one thing I want to make sure to ask about is, obviously this is the 70th year for Queen City, so I know you guys got some big plans, throughout the year. Want to hear how you guys are planning to take advantage of such a a big milestone for you, and kind of what you guys are hoping to do throughout the course of the year.
One thing. So 70 years, we've obviously made a huge presence in the community, and so we've got a chance to give back a little bit during that time frame too. So one thing we're going to do is around our 70th anniversary is we're going to pack 70,000 meals for No Child Hungry for the local market here in Charlotte, but we're also going to pack 70,000 meals and send them to Ukrainian children too, with the help of the No Child Hunger organization. So we've committed to do that, and we're going to be looking at some other opportunities to give back to community and schools as an organization here. So obviously we're going to have the big anniversary sale too, which it's always a great opportunity for a sale to celebrate those 70 years of operations. But you want to give back to the community too. It's been so generous to us to support us over these years, and even through those tough times of recession, we were a viable part of the community and an essential part of the community. So they support us through those tough times too. But we're looking for more opportunities to give back, and so the school children is going to be a big focus for us. The No Child Hungry is going to be a big focus for us, and we're looking to get other organizations involved in that. So, for example, last time we packed meals, we had a great success. And if I remember right, we packed the 1 millionth meal for No Child Hungry. And part of the way we got there was we went to organizations like Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And so that organization brought their bigs and what they call their littles and came and packed meals for us. So it was a great event for us. It was a social event for them. And we had a great time doing that with them. And so we've got other organizations that we're lining up, some leadership programs at the high schools in town. We're talking to some of them about coming in because they all need service hours. And so we'll get them in. And so, overall packing 140,000 meals over a week or so, that'll be a great accomplishment. So it's going to take a lot of manpower to do it and a lot of labor to do it. And so, but we'll set up to do it. So making an efficient operation. And then we also get some people in the showrooms too, which will be fun to bring some people who may not have been in the showroom before to come help us do some of that stuff. But obviously we've got got a lot going on. We're challenging a lot of different media arenas to talk about it. So we've got magazine articles coming out talking about it. We've got my mother's going to do some of these interviews with us to have some pictures taken, and as we talk about the evolution of the business over the years. But really, this is the 70th anniversary, but there's more coming for sure. And so hopefully I'll be around for the 100th anniversary when Roddey and Kate are celebrating out there too.
Oh, that's all. And they, Roddey Jr., your daughter, maybe sitting in a podcast with you talking about what was happening. No. But to put it in perspective, those meals, I remember some of the early prime times where 100,000 was the goal for the show over a couple of days. So to hear you guys are going to do 140, that's very exciting for sure. And, something we'll look forward to, pumping some noise about as well. So that's awesome. But one thing I want to close with, one more question to each of you, what, sitting again here today, you talk about the opportunities that are kind of in front of you, and what's the one thing that either you're working on or the opportunity that you see that excites you about what's to come for Queen City and what you're working on?
How about you, Kate? You want to start?
Sure. I'm excited for the Winston opportunity. That's a market that we get to touch a little bit, but I think it's going to be really cool what we wind up doing with the space up there to really make it kind of a template for other people in Nationwide to potentially follow.
It's awesome. Roddey Jr.?
Yeah, I'm right there along the line, those same lines. I think that's the next logical step to world domination. Again, from our distribution platforms, that's going to require a pretty big effort. Again, that'll give us a little extra footprint. Typically, right now, we've got a fairly wide-ranging delivery area, so we've got to cut capacity on certain days in certain areas, just depending on what we've actually got. So as we expand that pool, as we open up that talent pool to new contractors, to new delivery people, to new installers, that'll be certainly a fun challenge for us to have. And like I said, we want to make sure that those geographical constraints, we can kind of make sure that our ops and logistics can handle all that stuff. So that's next step.
Awesome. And Roddey?
Yeah, and I just, I'm looking forward to the eventual transition of the leadership. I've got a great team that along with Kate and Roddey that are helping them gain the experience that they're going to need to be future leaders in the business. And so that's a big focus. I say that this expansion the next 3 years is a primary goal that we've got, but also along those same lines, this will be something that is handed off to Roddey and Kate as future leaders to really make sure they can manage it and set up this a dynasty that is impenetrable. Roddey talked about world domination, but you want to build up a business that's so strong that it sustains itself and feeds itself. So that's part of that strategic plan. We're trying to build a system an ecosystem that feeds itself and continues to grow because of the way it generates its profits and revenues. And so, but that's what I'm looking forward to, is to hand them off a strong, financially strong, stable business of people that are like-minded in how we serve customers and like-minded on how we want to do it the right way, and also be effective and a great part of the community and part of our 70th anniversary. We'll follow up with this and hopefully do some things in the community in Winston-Salem too when we get up there. That'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, for sure. Certainly for sure. And, it being closer to home for Nationwide will be fun to be there and help support it along the way. So, the player family, I appreciate you guys, taking the time this morning. This was a lot of fun chatting with you, and always great to hear from you guys and share your story. So I look forward to doing it again more often in the future. So we appreciate it, and look forward to seeing you. Hopefully, all of you in Orlando here, not too long down the road.
A couple months away in August.
70 days while we're sitting here today recording this. So it'll be even less by the time we publish.
All right, that's great.
Coming up quick, but
well, thanks a lot for your time too, Rob. I appreciate the interest in what we've got going on, and glad we can share. And hopefully, somebody will take some nuggets of information and help them grow too.
All right. And thanks again to the entire Player family, Roddey Jr. and Kate, for spending a few minutes of their morning diving into the business and everything that they've got going on, and sharing some really fascinating things about how they've evolved over time, and they're learning from one another and evolving the business, adapting to new things, and of course expanding into new markets. So we'll look forward to continuing to cover that and see what that new store out there in Winston-Salem looks like. So exciting times for them for sure. But as always, we appreciate you listening to the Independent Thinking Podcast, and we will catch you next time.